Hey, what's going on, everyone? Joe Menza here, and we're going to do a nice painting again, once again on the flat table. Actually, I can change the angle on this table, but I'm painting flat as opposed to at my easel because I want to use more water. And if I want the paint to run, I'll lift my board that my paper is attached to. This is Winsor & Newton Hot Press 12 by 15. And I'm using hot press because it's a smoother paper and it seems to work well with this particular process and using a lot of water. So I'm putting a lot of water on here. I'm using the big, giant hake brush and just spreading the water out here, getting a nice even amount. And if you want to do things like special effects and water running and that sort of thing, this is the type of paper, once again, to use. And so now that we have a good sheen on here, I'm going to break out some fresh paint here. This is a phthalo type blue. And when you're doing this type of method, it's good to use good, strong, pigmented colors because they will fade as the water dries. You're using more water in this particular technique. So I'm taking the medium hake here, and now I'm just introducing the paint, and you can see how immediately that spreads there. And that's what we want. We want the water to do a lot of the work for us in the special effects. And I'm calling this painting, this is cool water, because a good portion of it is water. And when you do paint like this, you have to allow for randomness. If you're painting from a photo or even from your imagination, just allow to let certain special effects and things happen. That's the excitement of painting this way, is to just let the water do its thing and surprise yourself as to how it can turn out. So here I'm using some, this is phthalo green I'm using here. I wanted a little bit of a green effect. And some of these things, when you do, you'll notice that you'll lose some of the color. Some colors tend to fade more, like your reds and things. Now here I'm using some iron oxide, some burnt umber, and there's going to be a little bit of a rocky area here. I am using a photo for kind of inspiration, a Pixabay type photo, one of those free sites where you get free photos. And so we're kind of sculpting here. I'm coming in with this is some more of this blue, just kind of randomly putting this down. Just a random pattern here. There's going to be a couple of trees and things. You may not see too much of the sky anyway, but we'll see what happens. You know, that's the fun of it. Hit it with some water, spray it good. That's my continuous spray bottle you saw me using there. And we'll kind of just let this run for some neat effects. And some people will just do this and let it dry and call that a painting. You could literally leave this right here and just have this sort of random expression painting. Now for me, I've incorporated other techniques into this, such as dabbing on more paint. I can, instead of using a brush, I'll actually dab in and dab out. So I'll dab in more paint and dab out some paint that's there and create some unique sort of sky effects. So here again, this is some burnt umber, or some, that's my indigo, which I do like a lot. And here I'm just going to have a little bit of a mountain sort of in the background. Notice I'm not even applying it with a brush. And that's the fun thing about this process. You can use sponges, pieces of cloth. And that's why I do what I do is, you know, I'm not the greatest artist who ever graced, you know, the planet, but I can come up with a lot of different techniques and fun things and impart them to you. And my hope is that you'll paint and have a good time. And the biggest gift that I can give, I think, is to give someone the gift that I enjoy. Sharing is caring, as they say, right? So we're sharing, and hopefully you will find some enjoying techniques, and this will elevate your hobby as well. Now, as always, when I narrate these and I watch them back, I'm always surprised myself at what I see and think to myself, oh, maybe I should have left something. So here now I'm taking the cloth, and when I paint like this, I kind of fancy it as kind of being a sculptor where I'm chiseling out certain areas to get what I want. For example, here underneath the hill here, I can create almost kind of like a water line and a little separation. I'm always thinking of light, and I'm always thinking of contrast. So in essence, I'm kind of reclaiming some of the white by lifting some out. And of course, the more staining your paint is that you're using, that's going to be a little bit more challenging. But because we're letting things run and, you know, the paper is so wet, we can lift out more things. Now, I'm going to go a little darker on this little mountain shape here. Again, I'm thinking of counter change, which is your contrast. You're looking at how things, the dark against the light. And that's where you're going to get that wow factor where you see something dark, you instantly make out the shape, and then after that you can see the contrast. So you have light, dark, dark. And it'll make the dark thing complement the light. I mean, you can, the thing that's dark will make things that are light lighter. Okay, now I'll take my spray bottle and let some more unique special effects happen. Tilt my paper. This table I'm working on does tilt, but it locks into place, so it's better for me to lift up my board and have it clip to the board and move it around. As long as it stays wet, I can keep working it. Now that's my white. That's my, what I call Skyfex. That's my titanium white that I have in a spray bottle. And that helps me to loosen things up. And it also lightens certain background elements. And then I can actually do a blending technique as well. If I want to blend the sky, I can take a soft dry brush and I can do some blending. A little bit of finger painting. And just shaping out that little mountain there a little bit. And one thing you have to know when you're doing this is that your colors will lighten. And when you're using hot press paper in darker colors like sepia, or certain colors will actually get even darker. It's something with watercolor. Colors kind of shift a little bit on paper. So they flatten. They're not as bright when they're wet. They're brighter, and then they dry. And colors that are sometimes lighter go darker. It's something you just have to learn over time. Sometimes it works out in your favor. So I'm putting out some other colors here for this little rocky area that I have. That'll be a little sort of island type area where I have a couple of trees, little peninsula type thing. Again, I want to keep this area underneath with a little bit of lighter contrast going. And now over to this area here where I'm going to work on maybe creating some rocks and some textures. Again, just squeezing out fresh paint. Gets a little expensive with watercolor, but it does, I like the way it works. This is my fan brush I'm working with here. And you can see I get pretty messy here with my brushes out, cards, paint tubes, tissue. From chaos will come order. So you can see that's starting to look like a little mountainous area. Again, a little more dabbing here. A little bit of my white spray so I can do a little blending. You have to turn that tissue also when you're lifting. When you start getting paint on there, you have to keep turning your tissue or refolding it. And I can dab back over the top if I lifted too much. Just kind of working my little water area here. I'm just taking some burnt umber and zip right up. We're going to do a couple of trees here. You put this on the brush, enough on the brush, and you can just do a quick downward stroke. If that doesn't work for you, you can go sideways with the brush and just do a couple of inches at a time. Now the picture I'm working from has a few more trees in that, but I thought 2 would be fine. You have to decide what you want to eliminate. Just making that a little darker. And I'm going to take my plastic card and I'm going to scrape out a little bit to create some tree bark effect. And then, of course, if too much gets scraped out, I can come back in. I'm using a fan brush here with a little darker brown, a little indigo mixed with some burnt umber. Now here I'm taking my rigger brush and I'm going to make some branches here, trying to make a liquidy color here out of the burnt umber and indigo mix. And just flick in some branches. I know some people have trouble with this, but the best thing you can do is get enough paint on the brush and then sort of use the side of the brush and then give it a little flick to get that smaller branch effect. There were times early on where I would just practice doing branches, trees, and certain specific items, so when I incorporated them into the full painting, I would know I'd be practiced and ready to go. So now here I've mixed some blue and some yellow together, trying to create a darker green. And I'm using like a foliage type brush to create some leaves. These brushes are great because you can just press them in and you create instant leaves. And I don't want to cover up too much in the background here, but just enough that you know the leaves are there. So now that's done, I'm going to create some similar effects on the bottom portion using some burnt umber and just lay in some foliage there. And I want that to be the darker as the closer point to you. And just kind of go up into the water area so that it plays off of that. I'm just playing with my spray bottles for some special effect. I have blue in one, and then I'll take some yellow ochre. Or some, this is actually a pink, quinacridone pink, and just to create some warmth there. And a little yellow ochre to create some light. So here I've sprayed in some color here, and I'm just going to use that to wet the paper and then lift out a little bit just to create some textures and some rocks and things. Okay, so now is a time when I like to take and do a dry and then put a mat over the top and kind of get an idea where I'm at. And I think it looks pretty good, actually. This gives you a chance to look it over and see if you need anything else. I think it looks pretty good, so I'm going to leave it right here. This is what it looks like close up, and here it is once again in the mat. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.